Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Ford, and we are here for a video that will be part of 3 series on the channel. The first being, of course, the short story review series that we have going. The second being a run-through of the best American short stories from 2017 as edited by Meg Wolitzer. And the third being, of course, part of the Dirty 30 videos in 30 days that we are doing on Strip Cover Lit in celebration of crossing the 3,000 subscriber mark. Now this is, of course, as it is the first in the series, a review of Maidencane by Chad B. Anderson as it appeared in Nimrod. So, first things first, what happened? A young man, possibly a young woman, but I think possibly a young woman. I don't remember picking up anything that gendered this character as the story is written in second person. But it reads very masculine and as if it were redrafted to be gender ambiguous. Perhaps I'm wrong, but that's how it reads. This person, of course, as it is in the second person, is you, grows up in a dysfunctional household. He has an abusive father and a space cadet mother, a brother that he adores, but as the years have passed, the only connection he has kept to his family is a memory of their last day together. During that day, he and his brother had stolen a girl's fishing gear, and upon returning to the house with a fish, there is a blow-up. They go to get a tetanus shot as you stabbed your thumb with the stolen gear. And then the brother and mother leave our protagonist to grow up with the abusive father. This memory haunts our protagonist as he grows up, leaves and splits time between managing bars, spending time with a girlfriend, spending time with a boyfriend, walking dogs, creating drinks and drink mixes for the restaurants in the area, and getting tattoos. He calls his father once a year and gets a letter from his mother every now and again. But at the end of the story, he gets a call from his brother after 2 decades of not talking to said brother, playing phone tag with him as he only has a landline, not a cell phone. And the brother sort of, but not really, discredits our protagonist's sole prized possession, that memory of the family's last day together. The protagonist ends the story lonely and angry and resentful, just like old Daddy-O himself. So, we've got 3 good things, 3 bad things, quotes, which is for this story just a quote, literary analysis, rating, and a recommendation based on the text. So 3 good things. The first, this story is not afraid. Obviously, whatever gender this individual is, there is a homosexual relationship going on. Not afraid of that. Not afraid of the second person. Not afraid of the fact that this story is sort of sans chronology. There are a lot of balls in the air with this thing, which will lead directly into one of the bad things with this story. But none of that writing has scared the author here. So it is easy to get into the text and to follow that storyteller when you can tell that it is a story being presented in its fullest. 2, the end of the story is really and truly the emotional turn of someone who grew up with an abusive father or in an abusive situation. The way that interaction flipped on a dime is very telling of, and there's verisimilitude to it. 3, the story is smoothly written. It's easy to get through. 3 bad things. 1, this is not an attempt to tell a story. This is an attempt to tell every story, so you never really get anything. It starts on page 1, so this is a 10-page short story, and basically the summary that I gave for the short story was 10 pages as well. There's not a lot of showing instead of telling going on. And it's sort of writing as it is today. Maybe we'll get into that later in this review. I don't know. 2, the story is crafted around a memory that seems pretty throwaway anyhow. Even if that memory is later shown to be possibly a false memory or a partial memory, or a memory that has been fabricated over time, it's really sort of inconsequential anyway. It doesn't really seem like a story that should stick out. I know it's their last day together, but if you're choosing it for that reason as the centerpiece to this story, as the bookend, in fact, to this story, as well as a through line, that's a weak reason. You really should have picked something less monumental, but more important to the family, if that makes any sense. And 3, the third bad thing about this short story, the edge. Oh, the edge. This is such an attempt to be edgy that it falls very, very flat, very, very fast. It's just, so, yeah, man, cool, our protagonist has tattoos, and yeah, man, cool, works at bars, has a motorcycle, never really drove cars, dude. Just, everything is just so overt, and so on the nose, and so, yeah, bro, edge, that it's just, it reads try hard. Anyway, there's one quote that I really like from this text, and it is as such.
You framed some of her letters, creating, in your living room, a gallery wall of smooth, intricate streams, tracing across white or yellow stationery, like maps with no cities, just rivers.
Now, breaking things down into a literary analysis. For the literary analysis here, you really have to go back to the title, Maidencane. Maidencane is a type of grass indigenous to North and South America. It grows in wetlands, and it becomes very invasive. It becomes like a weed that just grows and grows and grows, and they have to, at times, really take things into hand and deal with the problem in the places where this grows. But it does grow in wetlands, just like our protagonist. Wow. And his memory. So why are we making so much of it that we title the story by it? Well, we have some hints. His mother, in her letters, writes of an invasive species of grass in her garden. We are left, I think, to believe that this is Maidencane as she lives in New Orleans. I believe that is Maidencane grows in New Orleans. Perhaps I'm wrong. The only Maidencane that is named by source in the text is as it is growing on the unbeknownst to our protagonist. It grows on the grave of the girl from his memory, which we get that side story as well, that she slipped and hit her head and died, and now Maidencane grows on her grave. Further, our phone call from brother at the end of the story, he refers to mom and dad as two weeds strangling each other out. So we are left to believe that this Maidencane is representative of the mother, the father, our brother, and our protagonist. They're all Maidencane. They have spread out after they broke up. They are now weeds in separate places. But I really, really wish that line about mother and father both being two weeds strangling each other out was not there. Because if you take that line out, what we are left with is a reference earlier with that quote that was the good quote from the story. We are left with that reference to mother being flowing water through her writing, looking like flowing water on his walls. If mother is flowing water because she's sort of artsy and sort of a space cadet, she's flowing water. Our brother that calls now teaches music, so he's probably artsy and he's the flowing water too, which leaves our protagonist, us, and father to be the Maidencane. And then, so if those two are the water to the wetlands, we are the Maidencane, which is stubborn and wild-growing and tough, and it is a weed that is a trouble to everyone and everyone wants to get rid of. In that case, the end makes better sense because we really get the sense from our protagonist that he's sort of a wanderer, that Rolling Stones don't grow moss, right? And the reason he's a wanderer, we pick up through his edge that he's sort of a bastard. He's sort of a prick. Even though there's a line in here where he gets into dark thoughts. You think this all the time, enough that you'd alarm people if you knew it. You like alarming people because it's so unlike you. Well, if it's so unlike you, then we wouldn't really get a reference to you liking to do it. It's something that you continue to do. And the only people that he or she really interacts with is his boyfriend and girlfriend throughout the story. His family has been disposed of. So that's sort of, I really wish that line about mother and father both being weeds was not really there, because then it would be father and our protagonist that are left to sort of represent the Maidencane. And I think that it would be more holistically symbolic then. So a rating. I'm going to give this story 65 hipster rages out of 100. And it hurts me to give a short story such a bad rating, but oh my god, the edge in this thing is just miserable. Just miserable. And there's a lot, everything is in here. Everything is in here. We don't get a story, we get every story. And you cannot convince me that this is one of the 20 or so best short stories that had been published in 2017. You just can't. You cannot convince me of that. And it's not because of the second person thing. I actually like second person. It's not... So I mentioned that either gender of the protagonist means that there is a homosexual relationship going on there, but we never really explore that. Not that we have to. Not that there has to be a reason for that. But you would think that in a relationship with both a heterosexual and homosexual relationship, in a story with both of those relationships going on, you would get some difference between them and why those relationships both must coexist to this protagonist. So we have so many things that don't matter for the story, and there's so many things potential to the story that never get mentioned. So those are things that really bother me with this story. But anyway, moving on, a recommendation from this story. This reads like an Always Save brand of Chuck Palahniuk. It reads very much like nonfiction. There's no reason for this to be... there would be no hallmark for this to be recognized as fiction from the story. If you read this without it being in short stories, you might assume that it was nonfiction, creative nonfiction. And at its core, this is the story of a very distant person struggling in a ham-fisted way towards intimacy with other people. So, by the name brand, and read Escort by Chuck Palahniuk as it appears in Stranger Than Fiction. So that is it for this review. If you like this sort of thing, hit like, hit subscribe if you have not already. I hope to see you back for the next short story review. I hope to see you back for tomorrow in The Dirty 30, and I hope to see you back for the next short story that appears in the Best American Short Stories of 2017, which is Are We Not Men by T.C. Boyle. And I really, really enjoy T.C. Boyle. I am really, really looking forward to this, and hopefully it does not disappoint me. And if you are wanting to help me make more content here on Stripped Cover Lit, there is a link, as always, to my Patreon to be found in the description below.